Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about the nouns of your day. As you go through your day, you use or see a number of things. In this English lesson, I'm going to talk about all of those things. I will say this though, the lesson itself, the words themselves will be quite simple. They will most likely be words you already know, but the important part of this lesson is to listen to how I use those words and how I talk about them. As I talk about each noun, you'll hear the verbs I use when I talk about those nouns or when I describe the actions taken with those nouns. So even though the words themselves might seem really simple, the purpose of this lesson is for you to listen and to start to learn how English speakers talk about all of those nouns. So the nouns of your day from morning until night. I'm not going, of course, to do all the nouns that you would see and use during your day. I have chosen about 30, but I think it should be a fun and interesting English lesson. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about the nouns of your day from morning until night. Alarm clock. A clock that wakes you up with a sound. As I mentioned, sorry, I'm just laughing because apparently this person gets up at 9. Now, that must be really nice. I usually get up at 6:30. Anyways, an alarm clock makes a sound to wake you up in the morning. So you're sleeping. When the alarm clock goes off, when it starts to beep, then you wake up. So the moment when you open your eyes, you wake up. Before you go to sleep at night, you set your alarm or you set your alarm clock. We don't always use the whole word. Like, did you set your alarm? Yes. Oh, my alarm went off this morning early. I forgot to change it when I set it the night before. So those are the words we use when talking about an alarm clock. You set the alarm clock at night and the alarm clock goes off in the morning and it wakes you up. Your bed, the place where you sleep at night. So it's interesting. Most beds in North America look like this. They are on, there's usually a bed frame. There's usually a headboard at the end on the wall or attached to the bed. And beds come in different sizes. You can buy a single or a twin or a double or a queen or a king. And I think there's one size bigger than a king called a California king. I'm not sure the exact name. But most people, if you are sleeping with a spouse or a partner, you would have a queen size bed. But if you are just living on your own, you would probably have a twin. You might have a single, but most people will have like the second from the smallest size. Anyways, a bed has a mattress, a bed has pillows, a bed has blankets. It's where you sleep at night. Pillow, a soft thing you put your head on when you sleep. And this is it's actually more than that because you can, like my couch behind me. Oh yeah, I don't have a couch anymore. We had a couch there and we had pillows on the couch as well. So they're simply soft things made out of fabric and they have stuffing on the inside to make them soft. And at night you would use a pillow to rest your head. And the couple things about a pillow, you can have a feather pillow, which has small feathers in it, or you can just have a pillow that has other types of material as stuffing. A pillow usually goes in a pillowcase because then you can take the pillowcase off and wash it every once in a while so that you have something clean to lay on. So a pillow, a soft thing you put your head on when you sleep. Blanket, a warm cover you use on your bed. If you were at last week's lesson, I think I mentioned that usually in my part of the world, you have sheets on your bed. Sheets are very, very thin blankets. And then you will put actual blankets over the sheets to keep you warm. And depending on the time of year and depending on how cold it is at night, you might have more blankets or thicker blankets. We also have thick blankets, which we call comforters. We have even thicker blankets that we call duvets. But those are the blankets. Those are the things you put on when you lay in bed to keep yourself warm. Okay, we're out of bed now, and we were talking about toothbrush. Now, I don't usually get up and brush my teeth. I usually get up and eat. I usually brush my teeth later. But when you need to clean your teeth, you use a small brush for cleaning your teeth called a toothbrush. You'll put toothpaste on your toothbrush and then you will brush your teeth. So similar to other words in English, we have the word toothbrush. This is a brush. You use the brush to brush. So it's both a noun and a verb. You would never say that you're going to toothbrush your teeth, though. That doesn't make sense. You would use a toothbrush to brush your teeth. And you also might floss your teeth with a small, thin piece of string that we call dental floss. But you would definitely brush your teeth, and then you'll spit out the toothpaste when you're done, and you will use some water and you will rinse your mouth and then spit out the water. So toothbrush, a small brush for cleaning your teeth. Toilet, a seat and bowl in the bathroom where people go to pee and poop. Now, I'm just going to mention that pee and poop are like the childish versions to describe it. I think you know what each of those are. As adults, you generally don't talk about what you're doing in the bathroom. You simply might say, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. I just need to use the washroom. In Canada, we sometimes say washroom. We don't often describe exactly what we're doing in there. But if you are talking to a small child and they say, I need to go to the bathroom, you might ask, do you need to go pee or poop? So that you know what is going to be happening. But as adults, we're usually fairly private about that. We might not even say we're going to the bathroom. At work, if I was in a meeting and I needed to use the bathroom, I wouldn't say, I'm just going to go use the bathroom quick. I would probably just say, I'll just be back in a minute. So toilet, a seat and bowl in the bathroom where people go to pee and poop. Shower, a place where water comes from above to wash yourself. So when you want to wash your whole body, you have two options. You can take a bath or you can take a shower. When we talk about showers, it means water coming from above from the shower head. This is a shower head. And the water comes in a nice stream, and it makes it easy for you to use soap to clean yourself. So when you take a shower, when you have a shower, there are two verbs. It basically means to clean yourself. You will use soap, and the soap you will have you will lather the soap and you'll use the soap on your body. And then you will rinse off once you've put soap everywhere. It's kind of awkward describing a shower. Once you have lathered up, you will then rinse off the soap by standing under the shower head. And of course, you will use shampoo to wash your hair. So shower, a place where water comes from above to wash yourself. Mirror, a piece of glass that shows your reflection. So we often add a description in front of mirror, like bathroom mirror. So this would be a bathroom mirror. I think it's a bathroom. It's a really fancy bathroom, so I have to take a good look at it. But a bathroom mirror is what you would use to kind of look, to make sure you look okay. You might also use it if you shave. You know, if you're a man and you are shaving, you'll use the bathroom mirror. If you are putting on makeup, you will use possibly the bathroom mirror. When you have a hot shower, the mirror will sometimes fog up. So there'll be a layer of really fine water droplets on the mirror. And we say, the mirror fogged up while I was having a shower. But mirror, a piece of glass that shows your reflection. Towel, a cloth you use to dry your body after washing. Now there are several different size towels, okay? There's a face cloth or a washcloth, which are very, very small. And usually that is a towel that you will make wet and use to wash yourself. So a small towel about this big is called a face cloth or a washcloth. A hand towel is a towel usually hanging by a sink. And after you wash your hands, you use that towel to dry your hands. We call that a hand towel. And then we have just a towel or a bath towel. This is a large towel that you would use to dry yourself after having a shower or after taking a bath. And then I think we talked about this last week. There is something called a beach towel, a really, really big towel that you take with you to the beach. So a towel, a cloth you use to dry your body after washing, face cloth, washcloth, hand towel, bath towel, beach towel. There might be another one in there, but those are the most common ones. Oh, there's also dish towel that you use for drying dishes after you do the dishes. So something you use to clean your hands or body. I'm not 100% sure what soap is made of, but when you have a bar of soap, you use the soap to lather up your hands. So they have all little soap bubbles on them. And then you will wash your hands, and then you will rinse your hands under the water. You will use the tap, you will turn the water on, and you'll rinse your hands. So something you use to clean your hands or body. Soap can come in this form, which we call bar soap, or we also have liquid soap where there's a little pump and then a little bit of liquid soap comes on your hand, and then you can lather up your hands. So soap, something you use to clean your hands or body. Breakfast, the first meal of the day. This, of course, is very North American looking. I should mention that, as with all my lessons, you need to realize that I'm Canadian, and most of my descriptions will be related to where I live or my area. So this might not be what you eat in your country, but in North America, these are many of the common breakfast items. Notice there's only like one apple there, I think, but certainly toast, that's bread that you put in the toaster, eggs, toast with jam, muffins, donuts, waffles. There's breakfast cereal, I think up in this corner, it looks like cornflakes. Then there's blueberries and then an apple. And I think there's oatmeal at the bottom. So if you're wondering personally what I eat for breakfast, I usually just have maybe one piece of toast and a couple of eggs. And I have been eating a banana with my breakfast. So breakfast, the first meal of the day. Coffee, a hot drink made from coffee beans. I don't drink coffee. I do drink tea. I don't drink tea very often in the summer, but as the weather gets cold, people will probably start to drink more coffee, more tea, more hot chocolate. It's just nice to drink something warm when it's cold outside. Most people will have coffee early in the day because it has something in it called caffeine, and caffeine will stimulate you and make you more energetic. If I have caffeine, it makes me very energetic, a little too energetic, and then I have trouble sleeping at night. So I avoid coffee, and I usually drink tea that doesn't have caffeine in it. But coffee, a hot drink made from coffee beans. Often people will drink it in the morning, so they get a shot of energy from the caffeine. Cup or mug, a small container for drinking. This is a cup. You would never call this a mug. This, however, you can call a cup or mug. You could put coffee in that and have a cup of coffee. You could put tea in that and have a cup of tea. You could put hot chocolate in there and have a cup of hot chocolate. You could also just say mug, although I think cup is far more common. Like, I wouldn't say, how many mugs of coffee do you drink in a day? I would probably say, how many cups of coffee? But if someone had something like this with writing on it, you could say, oh, what's on your mug? What does it say on your mug? So cup or mug, a small container for drinking. And I hope you understand, like, this doesn't have a handle. So this would always be a cup. Because this has the handle, you could call it a cup or a mug. Phone, a device to call, text, or check the internet. I think a lot of people use this just to scroll through social media, but this has become a vital part of the day. So at some point in the morning, most of us will check our email or read the news or go on social media. When you go on social media, it means you go on Instagram or TikTok, or even YouTube is considered social media. And maybe you'll just scroll through a little bit just to entertain yourself. But a phone, a device to call, text, or check the internet. Again, you might use it to check your email. You might go on social media. You might check the weather. You might text a friend. You might send a text message to a friend. and all of those things. Bag, something you carry things in. I don't think I have my bag here. No, I don't. Oh, well. Most people have some kind of bag. This is a fairly nondescript bag. There's a good new word for you, possibly. When something's nondescript, it's very plain and nothing helps you identify where it's from. But when I go to school, I have a little bag and I will put my lunch in that bag. I might put a couple other things in that bag. If it is a day where I'm going to make a video, I will put my camera in the bag as well. But a bag is something you carry things in. When you get groceries, you will put your grocery items into a grocery bag. I don't have a briefcase. I just use a bag. I think because I don't take my work computer home with me, because I can access everything I need to for work on my normal computers, my own computers. But otherwise I might have a laptop bag as well. So I just have a normal bag that I carry things in. Car, a vehicle with four wheels for traveling. So how does this relate to the nouns of your day? Well, every day I walk out the door, I get in my car, I start my car, I drive my car to work, and then I park my car in the parking lot at work, and then I usually lock my car, like beep, 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 with the key fob. I don't have it laying here. So a lot of verbs there for what you do with a car. You get in your car, you start your car, you drive to work, you park your car, you get out of your car, and then you lock your car until the end of the day. Sometimes I crack the windows. If I know it's going to be really, really hot and I know it's not going to rain, I might open the windows a little bit. And in English, we say to crack the windows. I might crack the windows a bit so that it doesn't get too hot in my car. Then, of course, you drive the car on a road, which is the surface vehicles drive on. So I drive on 3 different roads to get to work. When I get to the town where I work in, I drive on the street where my school is located. So the slight difference between road and street. Roads are places you drive on like this out in the country, or larger places you drive on around the city. Streets are more where houses and businesses are in a city or a town. So because I live in the country, someone would ask me, what road do you live on? If I knew they lived in the city, I would say, what street do you live on? You could use road, but generally street means like something like a road, but where people live on in a city or town. Office, a place where people work. And this also has another meaning. You can have an office in your house. This is my office. When I go to school, I don't have an office, but I could say that the people who run the school, they each have an office. So they could say something like this: I have to go into the office to work today. I have a little desk in my classroom, and I have a little desk in the area where all the teachers have desks. So I guess it's kind of an office. I probably shouldn't use my workplace as an example as a teacher, because schools are a little different. We have staff rooms, but an office, if you work somewhere like this, you would call it the office. So if you have a desk and you work in a large room with other people, or if you have a desk in your own room at work, we would call that an office, a place where people work. Desk, a table for working or studying. So you can have a desk at work. You can have a desk at home. I have a desk right over there. It's kind of dark and you can't really see it, but a desk is a table for working or studying. When you have a desk, you usually have an office chair. This type of chair that swivels and tilts back is called an office chair, as opposed to a kitchen chair or just a comfy chair you would sit on in your living room. So a desk almost always comes with a chair. We would call the little light there a desk lamp. But as you can see, it's a somewhat narrow table. Usually we put desks against the wall, and then you sit at your desk. Where's Bob? Oh, he's sitting at his desk in the teacher workroom. Have you seen Joe? Joe, the last time I saw him, he was sitting at his desk. That's the phrase we use to describe it. And then chair, something you sit on. Again, you can have a kitchen chair, you can have an office chair, you can have just a regular chair. I would call this maybe a reading chair, because maybe that's a chair where you're going to sit and read at some point. So chair, something you sit on. Computer, an electronic machine for work, games, or using the internet, or wasting time, or whatever you want to do. Two types of computers. There's desktop computers and laptop computers. We sometimes still call them notebooks. If it's from Apple, you might just call it a MacBook. But a computer has a screen, it has a keyboard, it has ports on the side so you can plug things in. It comes with a charger. The screen, you can dim the screen to make it less bright, and then you can brighten the screen to make it brighter. You probably have a little webcam built into the screen if you have a laptop, and you can use that to make Skype calls or Zoom calls and those types of things. But computer, an electronic machine for work, games, or using the internet. Lunch, the meal you eat in the middle of the day. Common questions would be, what are you having for lunch? What are you doing for lunch? If you asked me, what are you having for lunch? I would say, oh, I'm having a sandwich with peanut butter and jam on it. If you said, what are you doing for lunch? I could say, well, I brought my own lunch, but do you want to go out for lunch? Someone could also say this, do you want to do lunch? That means they want to go to a cafe or restaurant to buy the meal that you eat in the middle of the day. So this lady is eating lunch. This lady is having lunch. It is probably lunchtime at her work or at her school. Usually at lunchtime, I sit in the staff room because I work at a school and I eat my lunch. So you can take lunch. I'm going to take lunch at noon. Yeah, let me not confuse you too much. Let's stick with have lunch. That's the one we're going to stick with. Book, pages of writing you can read. Now, this relates to all of the hobbies. At some point in your day, you move from working or studying at school or whatever you do during your day, you move from that to a time where you relax. And there are a number of things that you might do. You might read a book. You might enjoy reading. So you sit down and read a book. If you have other hobbies, you might do them as well. You might do some archery. You might do a little bit of writing. Maybe you're going to use a pen, something you use to write. Although most people do write on a computer now. But maybe you journal, or maybe you keep a diary. In that case, you might use a pen to just write down the things that you've done that day. So a book, pages of writing you can read. You might read a book for pleasure. You might read a book because you enjoy the story, or you might read a book to learn something. So books have a number of different uses. And then, of course, besides pen, there's also pencil. And if you like to draw or something like that, you might use a pencil. If you like to paint, you would use a paintbrush. But these are all tools we use to write or draw or doodle. When you make little drawings with a pen or pencil during a meeting, it's called doodling. Paper, a thin sheet you can write or print on. You can either use a pen or pencil, or you can put it in your printer or in your photocopier, and then you can print onto it. But normally this is the kind of paper we buy. You can buy lined paper as well. Lined paper has thin blue lines on it. I thought I had some here, but I don't. I should be more prepared in the future. Students will often have a binder, and in the binder, they will have lined paper, and then they can write their notes in class on the lined paper. You can also take notes on your laptop, but this is probably the exact pack of paper that I have. Okay, not exactly. I do at least have this here. This is the multi-use Staples sustainable versatile paper for printing and copying. So there you go. That's what paper looks like. And then usage multiple, papier durable et polyvalent pour impression et copie. In Canada, everything has French and English on it. And it's really cool because you can read whichever one you want. That one does as well. Papier fiable. I can't quite read it. Let me make it bigger. Papier fiable pour volume élevé. There we go. Paper, a thin sheet you can write or print on. Dinner or supper, it depends where you live, which word you will use. We use both words in my part of Canada. At night, after work, after I get home from work, I will make dinner or I will make supper. And then Jen and I and the kids, we will eat dinner or we will eat supper. We often use the phrase to sit down for supper. When are you going to sit down for supper? When are you going to have supper? It's the main meal in the evening. We eat supper around 5:30. Some people eat supper as late as 7:30. Some people have an early supper at 4 o'clock. It really depends on how busy you are and what you are used to doing. So for me, 5:30 has been supper time my whole life, or dinner time. If I eat after 7 o'clock at night, I find it hard to sleep at night. So we have dinner at around 5:30. We have supper around 5:30, the main meal in the evening. And of course, we use plates, a flat dish to put food on. In addition to plates, we use cups and utensils and spoons and forks and knives and all those kinds of things. But this is a plate. Specifically, we would call this a dinner plate. Funny, we don't actually have the word supper plate. That's not a word, but this is a dinner plate. A dinner plate is about this big, and it's large enough where you can put different foods onto the plate and you can enjoy eating them. This is more of a bowl. So this is more of a stew that this person is eating, and this is a plate. So a flat dish to put food on. And then, of course, I mentioned fork, a tool with points used for eating food. You might have a knife, a tool used for cutting food. I probably should have used the word utensil instead of tool. So utensil is a word we use to describe forks and spoons and knives. Some people use the word silverware. Some people use utensil, depending on where you live in the English-speaking world, but a tool with points for used for eating food. TV, a screen where you watch shows and movies. You might even watch YouTube on your TV. Of course, TV is short for television. And I think just recently there were the Emmy Awards in the United States, where awards were given at an awards ceremony. There's a term from last week for the best TV shows, or what people think are the best TV shows. But TV is a screen where you watch shows and movies. Towards the end of the day, you might sit down and watch the news. You might sit down and watch a TV show. You might sit down and watch a game. I watched the Blue Jays game 2 nights ago. Yesterday, they played in the afternoon. I was at work. I couldn't watch them. But TV, a large screen where you watch shows and movies. By the way, we had to replace our TV. After I broke my collarbone, I think I watched so much TV that our TV broke. And then we realized that our TV was 16 years old. So I didn't really want to buy a new TV, but 16 years, that's pretty good for a TV, I think. It lasted 16 years. Couch, a long, soft seat for relaxing. If you're going to watch TV, it's nice to also sit on a couch or lay on a couch. I guess I should say lie on a couch. Maybe you'll use some pillows to prop up your head. Maybe you'll just sit on the couch with your feet up. Maybe you have a footrest to put your feet on. But yes, a couch, a long, soft seat for relaxing. Also, the thing I don't have over there anymore. I just have an IKEA chair and a lawn chair and a wooden chair. We still haven't bought a replacement couch. But again, we'll do that in the winter when we're less busy. And then pajamas, clothes you wear for sleeping. So depending on the time of year, you might wear more or less clothing when you sleep. When it's really hot, you might just wear a simple pair of pajama pants. If you're a man, if you are in the middle of the winter, you might actually have thick flannel pajamas. But basically, these are clothes you wear for sleeping, pajamas. Very comfy, especially in the winter. It's nice to have a nice pair of flannel pajamas in the winter time of year.